Welcome to the first episode of the Psych Hackers Society, where we decode the mind and extract the cheat codes. Every episode begins with a case, and today's case is one that quietly shapes how you grow, how you learn, and even how you become who you are, often without your own awareness. We tend to imagine growth as an individual process. Personal effort, personal discipline, personal motivation. But what if growth has always been relational? What if development is less about independence and more about proximity to someone who already knows what you don't? Today's investigation centers on a concept from Vygotsky's sociocultural theory known as the more knowledgeable other. And what we're about to uncover is not just a learning theory, but a hidden developmental mechanism shaping your cognitive evolution. So let's go ahead and open our first ever case file. Imagine a child learning to ride a bicycle. At first, the task appears impossible. Balance is unstable, pedaling is awkward. The fear of falling overrides curiosity. Then, someone enters the scene. A parent, sibling, or mentor. They hold the seat, offer verbal guidance, demonstrate technique, provide reassurance. Eventually, the child rides independently. What changed? Not intelligence, not motivation, interaction. This is the psychological footprint of the more knowledgeable other. Within Vygotsky's sociocultural framework, learning is not a solitary cognitive event, but a socially mediated process. The MKO represents any individual with greater expertise who facilitates development through guided interaction. This may be a teacher, peer, parent, mentor, or even a digital system. The key mechanism here is internalization. What begins as external guidance gradually becomes internal competence. This process is deeply emotional as well. Many listeners may recognize moments where growth only became possible once support appeared. And if you've struggled alone before receiving guidance, this concept may explain why effort alone did not produce progress. Because the development here does not occur in isolation, it unfolds within relationship. But this raises a deeper question. If guidance accelerates growth, what happens when the right guidance never appears? And this is where today's investigation deepens. Vygotsky once wrote, "What a child can do with assistance today, she will be able to do by herself tomorrow." This statement reveals the predictive nature of guided learning. Barbara Rogoff later expanded this idea through the concept of guided participation, suggesting that cognitive growth emerges through involvement in culturally meaningful activities with more experienced individuals. Jerome Bruner's work on scaffolding further emphasized that structured support enables learners to reach levels otherwise unattainable. These perspectives converge on one central insight. Guidance is not dependency, it is developmental architecture. And this reframes independence itself. True independence is often the residue of prior support, which leads us to the empirical evidence behind this mechanism. Meta-analytic research on peer learning demonstrates significant academic gains when students engage with knowledgeable peers. This suggests that the MKO is not restricted to authority figures. Expertise is relational rather than hierarchical. Studies on scaffolding show that structured instructional support predicts improved conceptual understanding and problem-solving ability. Research on collaborative dialogue further reveals that reasoning skills develop more effectively through interaction than solitary study. Perhaps the most striking is evidence from language development research, showing that social interaction plays a foundational role in linguistic and cognitive growth. So, taken all together, these findings suggest that learning is not merely information acquisition, it is a socially constructed process. And the implication is profound. Your development trajectory may reflect not only your effort, but also your access to MKOs, which raises a fascinating cognitive curiosity. Are you ready for the cheat code? Growth acceleration can be expressed as proximity to expertise plus guided interaction plus emotional safety is equal to internalized competence. Each element here plays a role. Proximity exposes you to advanced knowledge. Guided interaction transforms abstract information into actionable understanding. Emotional safety enables the risk-taking necessary for learning. Together, these mechanisms produce internalization, the conversion of external support into independent capability. This reframes self-development entirely, especially in the individualistic West. Growth is not a solitary climb, but a socially scaffolded ascent. And the decisive insight is this: the presence or absence of MKOs may silently shape your developmental ceiling, which naturally leads to application. Rather viewing mentorship as optional, don't want to do this, consider treating it as a developmental experiment. Identify one domain in your life where growth feels stagnant. Then, seek exposure to someone with greater expertise. This may be a mentor, peer group, educator, or structured digital platform. Now listen, you can expect for it to be uncomfortable at first. Guided learning often reveals knowledge gaps, places where you may fall short. And so we may have barriers like fear of vulnerability, fear of judgment, or perceived independence loss. But reframing guidance as temporary scaffolding can reduce resistance. Remember, support is not a sign of inadequacy. It is a developmental mechanism, and small, consistent interaction with MKOs can gradually restructure competence. And so, listeners, there are just some types of development that can't unfold in isolation. In fact, behind most skill, insight, or shift in identity lies an interaction. Someone who knew slightly more, saw slightly further, or guided slightly different. And so, as you move through your own learning environments this week, consider not only what you are learning, but who is shaping that learning. Because growth is often less about effort and more about exposure. And that makes our first case closed. Thank you for joining us at the Psych Hackers Society.